Hi everybody! In today's video lesson, we're going to talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle argued that ethos, pathos, and logos are the keys to persuasion. What does this mean? Well, if you want your audience to view a topic in a certain light, to change their behavior, or to take an action, you could use the tools of ethos, pathos, and logos to accomplish your goal. However, one of the reasons we're discussing this today is that somebody else could also use these tools to influence your views or inspire you to take action as well. So let's dive in. What are ethos, pathos, and logos, and how does one use these tools? Let's begin with ethos. Ethos, the Greek word ethos, means credibility. And when we say ethos, we're talking about the author's character, authority, and credibility. You can kind of think of it as how the audience feels about the writer or whoever is presenting the information. In this unit, we're going to be watching some commercials and public service announcements, so it would be the credibility of the person producing those videos. So here's how one builds credibility. The author's credibility comes from being an authority on a subject, as well as feeling trustworthy and relatable. Credibility also comes from writing or speaking well. Credibility can also come from quoting or paraphrasing really great, reliable source material. In advertisements, ethos can also come from brand recognition or the use of a celebrity endorsement. A few slides back, I had a quick little image of a Coca-Cola ad. Coca-Cola has a lot of ethos. Okay, let's look at a few persuasive examples encouraging people to stop smoking and get yearly lung cancer screenings. Here are some examples of some ethos or credibility in these persuading people on this topic. So you can see over here we have the image of the Ad Council. The Ad Council is a group, a government organization that puts out public service announcements to educate the public and encourage them to change their behavior. And they tend to have a pretty good reputation or ethos. The American Lung Association also has a lot of ethos behind their name. In these ads, we're also getting some credibility from this person named Eva Marie, quit smoking after 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. So she is bringing a lot of ethos to this argument because she's a former smoker, so we would trust her. This guy, it says screening success stories. Frank was saved by the scan and routinely gets screenings to make sure he remains cancer-free. So again, we have somebody who is speaking from experience, and they both look friendly and kind of approachable. The next one we're going to talk about, the next tool, is pathos. Sometimes people mix up ethos and pathos because they think ethos, emotions, but it's actually ethos, ethics or credibility. Pathos is the Greek word that stands in for emotions here. And this is referring to when the writer or the producer uses images or words or music to make the audience feel something. So in writing, pathos comes from voice, from word choice, from anecdotes, from description and imagery. I skipped over a little parentheses here. Think about when we say Mrs. Moore stated something versus Mrs. Moore demanded something. They both are indicating that Mrs. Moore requested something, but there's a little more emotion in those words. So when we say that there's pathos in word choice, that's what we mean. A writer might also try to connect with the audience through fear, anger, desire, nostalgia, curiosity, or even humor. When you read something that makes you laugh, or if you watch a commercial that makes you laugh, that's a pathos appeal. They're making you feel something. In ads, pathos can come from music, images, and word choice. So when we begin to watch advertisements and public service announcements, during this rhetorical analysis unit, think about why they chose the music that they chose, the producers, why those images are appearing, why, if they are speaking, why are they choosing the words that they're choosing. A lot of times they may be appealing to pathos. So here are some visual examples of pathos, again, on the topic of encouraging people to stop smoking and get screened. So An emotional appeal is going to make you feel something: empathy, pity, fear, or shock. So here we have the lungs depicted as matches. It may be hard for you to see that, but the lungs are matches, and they're catching on fire, which gives you that idea of how quickly it's going to spread. So metaphorically, the fire here is the cancer, and these are the lungs of a smoker. Lung cancer won't quit even if you did. Here's a really shocking image. Warning, this is what dying of cancer looks like. Barb Tarbox died at 42 of lung cancer caused by smoking. So this is a really startling image that may cause fear or another emotion like sympathy or empathy in you. And here, this one is probably intending just to shock you. It's a picture of a baby with a baby with smoke coming out of the baby's mouth to indicate the idea of if a baby is exposed to secondhand smoke, that it's like they're smoking themselves. So you can see that all of these images are trying to get an emotional rise out of the audience. The last appeal is logos. This one's pretty easy to remember. Logos equals logic. Logic, facts, truth, and reasoning. In writing, logic comes from statistics, facts, which we always cite, charts, and graphs. It can also come from if-then and cause-effect logical constructions. If you smoke around a baby, then that baby may suffer lung damage. This is a logical construction. Logos is going to look very similar in advertisements. If you really want to talk about it in the paper that comes at the end of this unit, though, I would encourage you to find an ad, a PSA, a commercial where it is overtly stated. They are providing you with statistics, or they are looking at a chart or a graph with you. It just makes it a lot more clear-cut to argue. Okay, so here are a few examples of what logos might look like. So remember, logos is facts, statistics, logic, and reason. So this is an infographic about lung cancer, full of statistics. 1 in 16 Americans will be diagnosed with lung cancer in their lifetime. Every 2.3 minutes, someone is diagnosed with lung cancer. Lung cancer can affect anyone regardless of gender or ethnicity. 391 Americans will die of lung cancer today. More than will fit in a full Airbus. So, and very visual. That's, really powerful use of statistics and facts. Here's some more. A lot of times if you're going to see logic and reason and statistics, it's going to be verbal, whereas pathos can be music, it can be images, it can be a subtle word here or there. Logos takes a little bit more time to develop. So here are two examples of written logos. Lung cancer kills 422 people every day. I do believe this is a different statistic than we saw on the last page. 1 in 16 people will be diagnosed with lung cancer in their lifetime. 10 to 15% of new lung cancer cases are among never smokers. Ooh, that one's scary to me. So you can see how this might persuade somebody, especially that last one, to have lung cancer screenings.